Thank you for coming. This is our, I think, second largest group that we've had come out for this. Is that right, Rebecca? So we have a lot of material to go over this morning, but we hope that everybody will take something away from it that will be useful to them and their family. So we want to take a little bit and talk about why we're here with this. Is 20 years ago, I decided, based on an experience with a client, he was 54 years old, and he was a financial planner, very successful guy, and he had the audacity of dropping dead in a client's lobby. And we had done a lot of work for him, and he was very, very knowledgeable guy. He'd been very successful. And we found that we had all the same kind of issues in settling his trust and estate that we'd seen over and over again. And I remembered something a good friend of mine who's a psychologist told me. At the time, I didn't realize he was stealing the line. I think it was from Einstein, that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you don't like the results you're getting, if you don't change it, you're crazy. So that's where we begin to focus on how do we try and help make sure that our clients' planning produces the results they want when they need it. And as a kind of a market survey, how many of you want your estate plan to mature in the morning? Wow, nobody ever takes me up on that one, okay? So it was trying to begin to focus on results that led us to the creation of what we call our LifeBridge program. And you're going to hear a lot more about this as we go through it. But the whole purpose behind the LifeBridge program and the life care planning process is about focusing on results. And we look for what we can do because of what we know about our clients and what we've learned to make the planning process go more smoothly. In fact, I have a guest here today. Some of you have talked with him. Hey, Bruce, can you stand up for a minute? Bruce Clinton is a consultant, but he's got a tool that I think, and maybe it's because I have a granddaughter who'll be 14. Any of you have those, either children or grandchildren in this 18, 15, 16? We see so many families that the children, the young adults, have spent a huge amount of money, tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, to get a college degree, and they don't have a job. Because I know that some of you still have 20-somethings who are still living at home. Now, I don't know that Bruce's program can solve that, but the program he has is about helping teenagers, and he can tell you more if you're interested about it, helping teenagers figure out what the right career path would be for them that is both going to be financially satisfying as well as emotionally satisfying. And if any of you have ever filled out the FAFSA, you even help folks do that, right?
Yes, we do.
So you might want to get acquainted with Bruce at the break if you have any family members that fall into that category. Thank you, Bruce. Okay. So we're going to spend time talking about both the LifeBridge program and life care planning and why it's an important part of helping produce the results that you need for your plan. Okay. This is different. When we started trying to figure out how to do this 20 years ago, there really was nobody I could learn from. Now, I'm not the only guy in the world today that has a program that focuses on maintenance, but we've shared what we do, lots of folks around the country. We try and spend, as many of you know, sometimes you think we spend too much time trying to make sure that we get the design of your planning right for you, but it's only by being well acquainted with you and your objectives that we can develop that right plan. We do our very best to try and explain it, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this. Because how many of you here are family members of clients? quite a few of you. This is an important part to help you understand now, while it's easy to get, you're under as least stress possible to understand how this works. We have developed, most all of you have binders that have documents in it, okay? We've done the best we can to date to try and incorporate your life, your stuff, with those documents. We try and talk about future scenarios. What, we ask a lot of questions in the planning process, and then we try and reinforce it with programs like the Successor Trustee Meeting, okay? Now, some of the elements. We have this saying, we really should say no additional charge phone calls. Because if you have questions about your plan anywhere along the way, we want you to call us. We've got this meeting to try and educate and reinforce what goes on. It includes no additional charge, simple trust amendments. When you want to change a trustee, you want to change a healthcare agent, you have these minor changes, that's included, because that's part of how we manage to try and make sure your plan works when it's needed. We spend a lot of time trying to make sure that we know what your assets are and how they're titled so that it's going to work with your plan. Legal directives. Everybody who is a client should have a green and white card in their wallet that makes your advanced medical directives, your living will, your healthcare power, who you want contacted, a modicum of medical information available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if for some reason you don't have your card or you've lost it, please let us know and we'll help take care of that. Annual plan review. Any of you remember getting a package from us back in January? You gotta participate with me, folks. Just a little bit. Not a lot. Okay? Y'all. One of the reasons we do this is we have figured out, one, people frequently forget how their plan works. Sometimes what we believe we know about your assets aren't what your assets are, either because we didn't get good enough information to start with, or, wow, things changed. Okay? We'll touch on it a little bit, but we'll continue to update your power of attorney every year to try and make sure that third parties will accept it when it's needed. I participate on a listserv for elder law attorneys, and we've got then somebody was commenting, how do you get I'll use their name. How do you get Wells Fargo to accept a power of attorney that's more than 6 months old? I can tell you that for our clients, we have never once not gotten a financial institution to accept the power of attorney on those occasions when it's been needed. It's a recurring problem. We'll talk some more about that and what the legislature tried to do. And we also try and let you know what we see going on in the world, what we think we may need to do differently is in a general kind of sense for everyone. Now, how many of you have used our Secure Docs portal on our website? A few of you. Are the rest of you aware that it's there? Yes. Okay. The reason that's there, all the time we find folks who want to share their copies of their documents with advisors or family members. If you don't know how to access this portal, Aaron will be happy to walk you through accessing it. But this is an easy way to make sure that those documents are always available for whoever you want to share them with. You can also add documents to it. In fact, we will be, in our January newsletter, we're going to be telling you about how we can help you add other documents that are important to you that aren't necessarily connected with the firm. Now, Jackie ran off. Jackie's title is our life care coordinator. Because as some of you commented coming in, yeah, there she is. Okay? See, she listens very, very well. Now if we could just move on to abeyance. Okay? Jackie's our life care coordinator, and she helps many of our clients live as well as they can, as much as possible where they want to, which contributes to them generally having more satisfactory lives for the rest of their life. Okay? If any of you notice that sometimes as you get older you got chronic health issues? No. Okay. I know you haven't, Fred. Okay. She helps folks work with that, including advocating with healthcare providers, assisted living facilities, nursing homes, home care agencies, because most of us in our daily lives don't deal with this enough to really know what's possible or even how to communicate with these folks. And Jackie's really very, very good at that. And if you have other work that falls in the range of what we do, once you're a LifeBridge member, your fees are less than somebody who comes to us who's not already a client. Now, we think, and as Bruce pointed out, wow, this LifeBridge thing is a real differentiator. It is, because we're here to try and help make sure that your plan works as well as possible for the rest of your life, okay? We also, with the life care planning, are going to help figure out what other resources are available. We will help you make sure that you don't overcommit accidentally for... How many of you want to be on the hook for a family member's home care or other long-term care expenses? For the record, I want you to notice nobody raised their hand. I'm going to pick on Joe up here. Joe, on the way in, was talking about a case that he works in the court system that he got to sit and listen to, and something we tell folks about when you sign a document, when it deals with a healthcare provider, be very careful how you sign it, because you may be buying a liability you didn't intend. And the case has not been resolved yet, right, Joe? But we've seen this happen over and over again. Family members trying to do the right thing get taken advantage of if you don't know how the system works. And ultimately, what this is about is the quality of life for the senior family member and quality of life for the rest of the family who's involved in trying to make sure that they live as well as possible, as long as possible. This, like LifeBridge program itself, is a relatively innovative process. We belong to the Life Care Law Firm Planning Association. They couldn't come up with a shorter name. In the whole country, there are only about 160 firms that have embraced the notion that helping our older clients live as well as possible and as long as possible is incredibly important, and law firms can do something other than draft documents. We've been pursuing this for now. We're in about our 11th year as part of our practice. It's multidisciplinary. You know, Jackie is on the staff, but we also routinely work with other geriatric care managers, home care agencies, assisted living facilities, as well as financial planners and CPAs. So, I like to think that most of you are here today because of the fact that you have a loved one that cared enough about their situation to try and lay out a plan to see that their affairs are going to be handled as well as possible while they're alive, should they become incapacitated, and ultimately when they pass. Okay? Many of you here are what we would call helpers or assistants or fiduciaries, but basically you've indicated, or some of you have been chosen and don't yet know what for, to help when we have these problems that come from that. And this is to help you understand what the duties and responsibilities are, what you've either been appointed to or have agreed to. Hopefully when you leave, you'll all be clear on what's involved. So where we need to start is to talk about really what the most common estate planning objectives are. Because whether we're talking about the elder law side of the practice, the estate planning, the estate or trust settlement part, it all has to start with what are the initial objectives. We've got some common themes. Is while some of you might like losing a little control in the evening or the weekend, basically you want to control your property while you're alive. Okay? You want family to have control when you no longer either want to or can. So, and we also find universally you want to be sure that you're as well provided for, cared for as possible. You want to control to whom and how and when your assets will be distributed at death. You want it done your way. We find that most folks want to maintain privacy. I've had a lot of folks who say, you mean they can just go to the probate court and find out everything about me? Yeah. How many of you remember about the, excuse me, the woman who left $12 million to her dog? Y'all remember that? Yeah, Leona Helmsley? Yeah. How many of you would like to be the dog? Okay, just checking. Well, we never needed to know about that, did we? And had our planning been done as the way most of your planning is done, nobody's going to know about the dogs in your life. And ultimately, we want to achieve all of that so that we minimize taxes and the overall fees that one pays to have a successful plan. So, what we have been telling the world for 20 years now is estate planning is a process. You all have started that process. The reason I want you to think about it as a process, as much time and effort as we spend trying to craft personalized, effective documents. Thank you, Jackie. Documents by themselves do not make a successful plan. Because we come back to a question I asked earlier about how many of you wanted your plan to mature in the morning. I got no takers. We want the plan to work when we need it, which hopefully will be how soon? Long time out in the future. Okay? In my case, about 40 years. Okay? So if you want a plan to work, you have to accept that it's a process. Its process starts with the initial education and then design of a plan that suits your concerns and your family situation, your asset situation. When we talk about initial funding, that's about making sure that the ownership and beneficiary designations of what you have, your stuff, your assets, that is in fact properly coordinated with the planning design that you have. And then it's got to be maintained. Because you're here, you're all involved in the maintenance of a plan. You're not all necessarily in the same place in the maintenance process, okay? But you are experiencing part of it. The whole purpose of the LifeBridge program and the maintenance feature is to try and make sure that everything that we've done continues to work, that we're having appropriate communications, both from the firm to you, but also to your helpers, and amongst all of us, because one of the reasons that many plans fail is because that communication never takes place at all. We're trying to see that it does. Then ultimately we got settlement. Settlement means this is what we have to do now that somebody's passed away, what do we have to do based on your plan and your stuff to get the results that you want for your loved ones? We may have, so far we're accepting settlement is like a certainty. Sorry about that. Okay? Incapacity, while it's not certain, if you live to 65, which some of us are willing to admit to, the odds of having an incapacity before you pass is 70%. And that's an incapacity such that you will require long-term care. And a funny thing I figured out a while ago, most of us pass away sometime after 65. So a lot of us are going to see that. What are they saying? There are 15,000 people a day turning 65? Some got by it a while back, Fred. Okay? So it's only by having this well thought out, long-term process in place that we're able to, with very high confidence, say that what your planning objectives are from when you started to where the plan is needed are very, very likely to produce the intended results. I'd like to give you a 100% guarantee, but the world changes. We're as close to 100% as we can get.